Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. This one is for Monday, July 27th, all the way through to Sunday, August 2nd of 2020. And this week we are finally moving on from some of the super weird energies that we've been experiencing throughout this summer. And what I mean by that is we're coming into the final pass of a couple of different, normally short-term transits that have been extended into long-term transits because of the retrograde cycles. And so they've been experienced in a way that's been extra slow, extra long, extra impactful in our lives, and we're finally coming to this point of resolution this week where we can move on and finally move into something else. And that something else we're moving into this week is the shadow period for the Mars retrograde. And so this is going to take us into the start of next year with a 6-month period with Mars in the sign of Aries that I talked about in my video a couple of weeks ago, my 6-month forecast for Mars in Aries that gets into the retrograde. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend that you do so. We'll discuss a little bit about this here, but mostly in terms of what we're moving on from, and a little bit about what the shadow period is going to be bringing. So definitely check that out if you haven't already done so. But this is a powerful, powerful week because we are finally ending the 3-week Mercury square to Mars that's been ongoing due to the Mercury retrograde cycles and Mercury stationing in a square with Mars and just kind of lingering there for a little while and moving really slowly. And so we've had 3 weeks of verbal tension, mental tension, and maybe, increased anxiety too. People tend to be more on edge. That Mercury square to Mars makes it so our thoughts are racing, and sometimes our speech goes at the same rate as our thoughts. And we might say things without thinking. We might cause conflict without actually intending to do so. Or we might be on the receiving end of that. It's kind of like foot and mouth season right now. You might say something without realizing it's going to hurt somebody's feelings and then have to kind of backtrack and explain yourself or apologize. And so that's a lot of the energy we've been dealing with here. It's also this like frustrated energy, like I have to speak my piece. I have to say what's on my mind. I have to tell this person how I feel, which, can be good for some people under some certain circumstances, but for others, maybe not so much, right? It just kind of depends on whether or not you're usually more withholding when it comes to the need to express anger or the need to speak your mind. And maybe this is giving you the push that you need, especially this week. Or if you're somebody who's already kind of like that and it's just making you more aggressive or abrasive or blunt to the point where you're hurting people, right? So it depends on how you are normally and what your Mercury placement is normally, and also how this is showing up in your chart and what area of life is being impacted. Because for some people, this is going to be moving much more smoothly than for others. And of course, we'll get into that when we talk about the forecast for all 12 signs. The other thing, and also I should mention before we move on to the other thing, this is happening, this square, the day that Mars moves into its shadow period. So we're kind of off to an interesting start to the Mars retrograde energy, which is, again, what we're starting to move into this week. And this is going to give us a preview all the way through to September 9th of what we're going to be dealing with when it comes to the Mars retrograde. We've already, as soon as Mars moved into Aries, we started to get a little bit of a preview, but I think that's going to amplify. And in August, we're going to see on a global and a personal level what this Mars retrograde and what this square to the stellium in Capricorn is really going to be all about. But we're starting to see a little bit of a peak of that, especially this past couple of weeks. And so pay attention to what's going on in your life in the areas that we'll be discussing in this forecast. And also just kind of, keep an eye out what's going on in your sort of general immediate environment and on the global sphere. I don't recommend, gluing your eyes to the news or anything like that. However, paying attention to what's going on is going to give us an idea of what we're going to be facing. So I do think it's a little bit important to just be aware right now. The other thing that we're dealing with here that we're actually moving on from is the energy of Venus squaring Neptune, which has been an on and off energy really since May because of the Venus retrograde cycle, because Venus went retrograde in the sign. Actually, it was a little bit before May that started. So that probably would have been, in April, we would have felt that too. But really in May, especially because we had Venus going retrograde in square with Jupiter. And it was kind of like, it's almost like an energy where we could feel lazy or indulgent, or where we're not seeing things quite so clearly, especially in our relationships or on an interpersonal level in the area of life that's being impacted. And so this is the time where that murkiness comes back up again, but we get it's the final pass of this. So we've been there, done that. We've been in this strange sort of field before. And so now's the time where we can actually start to resolve this and get some sort of clarity, especially after the start of this week, after this final pass of this transit. The thing that's actually quite nice about this is that Jupiter is actually going to be in a sextile with Neptune on Monday as a part of this energy. So I do think that this can actually be quite helpful. I think this is going to be a very creative, very imaginative, very intuitive, very spiritual energy. And so, when Venus is involved in a square, it's definitely not as detrimental as a lot of the other squares, because Venus is the lesser benefic. And so Venus and Jupiter tend to act differently in squares. There can be overindulgence, feeling too good and kind of just letting yourself go and neglecting your responsibilities. I'm guessing with the Mercury square to Mars, that might help keep us motivated. So we're still moving forward. We're not just kind of losing ourselves in the ethers. But I do like that energy with Jupiter there, and that Jupiter-Neptune square is an ongoing energy throughout the year that's coming in and out. That's allowing us to be just much more compassionate, to understand each other a little bit better, to put ourselves in other people's shoes more so than we would, to be more empathic. And that's, I think, going to be really, really helpful on Monday in particular when this is all coming exact. So there's kind of this energy of empathy and compassion and love and spirituality and intuition that's really coming online on Monday, at the same time that there is some potential for conflict. And so hopefully we can utilize our ability to place ourselves in other people's shoes. We can utilize this interconnected energy. We can utilize our intuition to really fully comprehend and understand what's going on. And speaking of which, that's part of the reason that Jupiter sextile to Neptune, that we chose the Tuesday the 28th, Raphael and I, for our Navigating the Big Picture webinar. This is a donation-based webinar that we're doing, and him and I just met yesterday to kind of just go over the final details of everything. And I'm really, really excited for the webinar just from our conversation that we had. There's a lot of really interesting information that's going to be coming out through this. We're going to be covering kind of the weirdness and the turbulence that's going on right now, what's kind of going on between now and 2026, and this big paradigm shift that's really coming to fruition in 2026. And so this is all leading to something, right? We're in kind of the most turbulent phase right now, but things are going to progress, and I think things are going to take a positive turn, maybe in the end of this, or as the end result of a lot of the things that we're experiencing right now, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. And so that's really what we're going to be looking at here. And so that webinar is going to be at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on the 28th. I think it's 5 p.m. in London. You'll have to kind of check my website or check the time zones to see where it is in your time zone. But it's a live webinar, donation-based. You can pay whatever you feel is appropriate or whatever you can afford. And we just want to, get this information out to people so you can plan and prepare and just know what's coming up. And so that's going on. The link to that is down in the description below. And then, in terms of the other energies this week, those are the biggest things. We are going to have a little bit of some diciness into the weekend. The sun will be squaring Uranus, and this could activate the need or highlight the need to change something rather abruptly that we thought was relatively stable in our lives. So it could bring a little bit of disruption, just a minor disruption over the weekend. And Mercury will be in opposition to Pluto as well. And so between the Mercury square to Mars and the opposition to Pluto, I don't know that our words are going to be used in a way that is kind and gentle, even if we intend it that way, especially toward the end of the week. And so Just choose your words wisely, make sure that what you're saying is what you mean and that you mean what you say, and that even if you mean what you say, that you're saying it in the right way, right? That you're not just saying things just to like hurt people or to get back at them, or maybe you don't realize the way that you're coming across, because this can cause unnecessary conflict and it's probably not what you're intending with whatever information that you're trying to share this week. So that's kind of the last little bit of it at the end of this week. The weekend's a little turbulent, a little weird, but it's like something that's just going to pass, right? It's not something that's like a long energy. It's just kind of like the weekend. There's a little bit of tension. There could be a little disruption. Things could be a little weird, but it's not, the be all end all of our existence or anything like that. And it's not like these extended inner planet transits we've been having all summer long, which have been interesting to say the least. Not that, 2020 is going to be interesting the entire time. So that's going to be just kind of a thing throughout the rest of the year. I had a friend that actually sent me a message, I think it was this morning, and she was like, wasn't this supposed to be the easy time of the year? And I was like, yeah, well, in, the context of 2020, I mean, it kind of has been. And, we'll see what we're gearing up for in the fall here. So anyway, let's actually, I have a couple of quick announcements, and then let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs. And so I already talked about the webinar that I'm doing with Raphael, which I'm super excited for on Tuesday, but I have a couple of additional announcements. The main one being that I am teaching a brand new course finally. It's been so long since I've been able to create a new course. I've been doing these collaborations and these donation-based webinars to help navigate, the craziness right now, and those have been great, but I love teaching astrology. You guys all know this. And so I'm finally releasing my course on house rulerships. It's going to be available on August 19th, and it's a 4-week course that goes really in depth into everything you need to know about house rulerships. And this is such an important concept in astrology that's underutilized, overlooked, and it is the prerequisite that you need in order to make accurate predictions in astrology. And this is actually a prerequisite concept for my predictive astrology series, because this is the first course that I'm doing in that series. Before you even learn transits, you should know how to use house rulerships, because you're not going to know what the transits are going to bring completely and fully and holistically if you don't understand house rulerships. And so this is such a crucial concept. This is something I've been really wanting to do a webinar on, or a course on actually, because it turned into something much bigger once I really got into the nitty gritty and started planning it for a while now. For like over a year I've been planning this. So you guys, you can sign up now. You can get a discount if you pre-register prior to August 19th, and the link is down in the description below. And then also my fall electional astrology guide is going to be available in a little over a week here, so you have just a small amount of time to pre-order that for a discounted rate and to plan your fall, because it's going to be an interesting time period, but there are some really good energies that we can utilize too, and so I want to help you to do that, so that way you can be successful in whatever it is you want to create and launch this fall. The link for that is also down in the description below. All right, so that being said, and I really hope some of you guys attend the house rulerships. I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for that. Okay, so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs. All right, so we're going to start with Aries. So for Aries and for Aries rising, words might be exchanged this week. This is kind of a dicey energy for Aries, especially at the start of this week. You might feel really fired up, like you need to do something. You need to say something. You need to do it right now. You need to tell that person how you feel. You need to stand up for yourself. And that could be especially apparent when it comes to family relationships. Just know that it might not be taken well. And so you want to choose your words and your timing wisely. Luckily, there's a lot of compassionate energy. Maybe you can get your siblings or extended family members or your neighbors or your community on your side. If there is an issue, maybe with your housing, I feel like this is a time where a lot of Aries rising people who are in like HOAs are going to want to like tell off the leaders of the HOA or something like that. If you do that, you can get your community, you can get your neighbors to back you, and that would be helpful. Collaboration is a really great thing to kind of look into this week and sort of connecting with your community. And also, there is an important message that might be coming in this week, either through a family member or involving your home, involving your living situation, or somehow tied to your ancestry, your past, your roots, your heritage in some way, or just kind of, in general, there's an important message being delivered to you directly that involves the Mars retrograde, and it's giving you a preview or a taste of what you need to know and understand in order to navigate that Mars retrograde energy, especially come November when Mars stations direct, because this is the point where Mars is going to be stationing this week. If you're an Aries rising sun or moon, anywhere around that 15th degree, really, anywhere from, let's say, 12 to 18 degrees, you're going to be feeling this very intensely and you're going to be feeling very fired up. Just kind of, before you react to things, take a step back, take a breath, make sure that you have yourself composed, your thoughts together, and then you can respond. There could be something that's been coming up that's been irking you for like 3 weeks now, and it's just like, all right, I finally just have to say something. As long as you've thought it through and you're choosing your words wisely, I think that it could be okay. But you just want to know, you just need to know that this might come back around, or the results of what you're saying might not fully manifest until November. So hopefully that makes sense. The other thing that's going on here, of course, is that Venus has been squaring Neptune in your third house. There's been some murkiness or confusion or fogginess, maybe around some important communication, an important creative project or idea, an important relationship with a community member, with a neighbor, with a sibling, extended family member, something along those lines, where there's something going on behind the scenes where you feel like something's a little off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Something will be revealed to you and things will get a lot more clear, especially after the start of this week. And this is actually a really great energy for you guys this week to expand on something or to intuit something that's going to be really important to your career growth and development moving forward, which I know has been a big area of focus for a lot of Aries rising people in particular. You're going to have an opportunity come to you, but it's going to come to you in a way that's very intuitive or very creative. It's going to come to you from the subconscious realm or from behind the scenes. Pay attention to that, because that'll come back around later this year and become much more important and much more prevalent. All right, and then for Taurus and for Taurus rising, this Mars energy is happening in your 12th house. And so this is going to be bringing up a lot of subconscious rage. And so this is something that it might come up like and be verbalized in some way. You might underneath the surface be feeling a lot of anxiety or tension or anger or frustration, and now's the time where you're going to finally want to let it out, to release that, to say something, to speak your piece. If it's something that you've been kind of dancing with for quite some time and you just feel like you need to be direct with this person, you need to say what you need to say, and you want to say it in the way that you want to say it, just make sure that you've thought things through and that you're not just kind of acting impulsively. You might get some communication this week that might seem passive aggressive, or you might inadvertently come off as very passive aggressive this week because there's a lot of subconscious frustration or rage going on or bubbling up behind the scenes. Important messages can be coming through your dreams. I've had a lot of Taurus rising people tell me in my astrology stories group and on other social media pages that they've been having like nightmares and insomnia and trouble sleeping. It's because something's weighing on your mind and you need to either write it down, you need to do something about it, you need to say it, but just make sure that you're not just reacting to something impulsively. It's something that you're responding to or something that you've been kind of dancing with for a few weeks now. If that's the case, this is the point to finally just do it, say it, move on. The other thing that's going on here is that there's been some murkiness or confusion around your financial situation, especially with that Venus retrograde energy. Now's a time where some confusion is going to bubble up again one final time, but you're going to be able to understand it better. You've been dealing with it for quite some time, and you can finally get the answers that you seek and start to get clarity after the start of this week. Finally, I would say that There could be an opportunity coming to you this week for travel or for connecting with people in a foreign country, especially if you're not able to travel, or for some sort of higher educational pursuit, especially a creative one, or taking some sort of class within a group or on the internet, some sort of social experience. That's 11th house, which 11th house can be the internet and social networks on the internet as well, or connecting with people, from a foreign country via the internet. But there's an opportunity that's coming up, or that you're going to be able to take hold of, but it's going to come about more intuitively than anything else. Or there could be like a creative course that you want to take. This will come back around later this year, but it's something to pay attention to and to start taking hold of now if you're able to do so. All right, and for Gemini rising, this energy with Mars and Mercury is happening in your 11th and in your 2nd house. There could be some disputes about money, material possessions, finances involving your friends or social networks. Maybe your friends are doing a little bit better financially and they're pressuring you to come out or spend money or do something that you don't necessarily feel like you have the means to do. Maybe they owe you money, maybe you owe them money, but there's something going on here where there's some sort of maybe anger or frustration that involves material possessions, financial, expenditures, and your group, your social network, your friends that you surround yourself with by choice. If somebody asks you to borrow money this week, I would not necessarily do that, especially if it's a friend, because you might lend it out, you might not necessarily get it back, it might cause conflict, or if you do get it back, it's probably not going to be until November. So that's just kind of something to be aware of. There could be arguments, disputes, and frustrations in your social circle at the start of this week to begin with, or, via social media. This is like a good week to really steer clear, or a good period, like in general, to steer clear of social media. Delete your Facebook account, right? You might want to bring it back up in November for whatever reason. But in the meantime, this is not a good time to start arguing with people via social media or on the internet. There's going to be a lot of misplaced aggression and frustrations being aired in ways that are maybe not so healthy or conducive to growth. And so that's just kind of something to be aware of as well. The energy with Venus in Gemini squaring Neptune, this is more directed to you. And so especially if you're a Gemini rising, sun, or moon, you're the 20th degree. So I would say really anywhere from like 23 to 18 degrees in the sign of Gemini. You're going to be feeling this the most, and it could be a very feel-good, luxurious, lackadaisical kind of energy. You might feel like you want to get like a makeover or a facial or a spa day or a haircut or something like that. If you're getting something that's completely new that you're just envisioning in your mind, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cut off all my hair and it's going to look gorgeous, maybe wait on that, just because what you're envisioning might not be meeting the reality of the situation. And so, it is a very creative energy. It's a good time for dreaming and thinking about what you want on a material level, thinking what you want in terms of your physical body and physical appearance, and sort of imagining it and envisioning it, but maybe not the best time to take action on that. A good place to take action on, though, is there's some sort of energy here that could help you to expand on your finances, especially joint finances or investments, inheritance. This would be a great time to take out some sort of insurance policy or something like that. Or this could be, involving some sort of creative merger or creative collaboration with somebody in a position of power or authority, or a creative collaboration with somebody in business that could bring in money through an outside source, maybe through an investment or something like that. This is a great time to really visualize what you want. If you are somebody who's in debt, visualize that debt kind of lifting and visualize it leaving your space. Visualize lots of money coming in. This is a great time for any sort of creative visualization or meditation around money and finance, especially money coming in from an outside source or money going out in terms of paying off debts. That could actually be quite fruitful, and you might actually see that come to fruition later this year. For Cancer and for Cancer rising, this is going to be a time where Cancers are going to be feeling a little more on edge. They're going to be speaking their piece. There could be a situation that comes up in your work that could be very frustrating, that could cause arguments or disputes. You might have trouble with your boss, you might get in trouble with a superior, or you might be in a leadership position. You might have to kind of, dish it out, and you might go a little overboard. You might hurt some people. You might kind of be a little too abrasive or too aggressive with it. So just make sure that, especially if this is a frustration that's been building for a few weeks now, which it might be, there might have been a lot of frustration around your work and what's going on out there in the world. It could even be that you're frustrated with not having work right now, and you just jump in and decide you got this email, somebody reached out to you and called you, and they're like, yeah, I have this job, but you have to take it right now. We need you tomorrow. And you jump right in and you take it. Think it through before you respond to this, right? Don't just jump in and react, because this is something that you're probably going to be sticking with and going back and forth with all the way through to at least November, if that is the case. And so it could cause tension, it could cause frustration, there could be some issues there. So just kind of make a mental note of that. And if you are communicating with people involving your work, involving your career, make sure that you're doing so respectfully and not impulsively. And also, if you're applying for jobs, make sure that you're being mindful of the application process. You're not just rushing through because you can make mistakes, and you're not just applying to any random thing because you could get stuck with something, even though maybe, yes, you need it right now in the moment. It could be more trouble than it's worth. So just kind of be aware of that. But we're finally moving on from this energy. So if you take a few days, chill out, sit with it, and then take action, your actions are going to be more precise, especially at the end of the week, and they're going to be much more deliberate and much more well planned out and much more strategic. And so the energy from the beginning of the week to the end of the week is very different when it comes to these types of endeavors. The energy with Venus has been going on in your 12th house. This is a good time also this week to kind of sit back, meditate, relax, spend some time just resting in solitude or seclusion. This is kind of an indulgent energy, but you can indulge a little bit. I would say that this is a good time to spend time focusing on your spiritual exploration, your spiritual practices, your spiritual studies in some way. That could actually be quite fruitful for you right now. There's not, this energy with the Venus square to Neptune isn't hitting you in a way that's going to be particularly difficult. And Neptune is actually going to be trining your ascendant, or your sun or moon, especially if you're an ascendant, sun or moon anywhere from 18 to 23 degrees in the sign of Cancer. You're going to be feeling this in a really pleasant way. You're going to be feeling much more intuitive. You're going to be getting really great intuitive hits. You're going to be feeling much more creative. So if you're somebody who's in some sort of creative field, or you're just somebody who likes to do things that are creative, now's the time to learn a new skill, or to jump in and do something, or maybe teach the things that you like to create to other people so that they can be as creative as you, or to teach some sort of spiritual concepts to other people, or teach a new meditation to somebody. This would be a great time to do something like that. This is also a great week at the start of the week for interpersonal connection one-on-one with people. Your relationships can benefit from maybe taking a course or exploring a new concept, or maybe even doing some sort of trip together, especially your one-on-one close personal relationships, marriage partnerships, things like that. I think this could actually be a good week where you're feeling much more compassionate and much more loving toward your partner. You're able to see things from their vantage point and put yourself in their perspective, and they'll be able to do the same as well. So this is a good, loving, compassionate energy for relationships this week. All right, and then for Leo and for Leo rising. So this Mercury square to Mars, this is a little bit of tension, but it's more like subconscious tension or subconscious rage, kind of like I talked about for Taurus, because Mercury is in your 12th house. There's a secret that you're keeping. There's something that's been boiling beneath the surface that you want to let out, that you want to express, that you want to say to people, but you're not quite able to do it, or for whatever reason you've been holding back. Now's the time where it might come out. So your secrets might come out whether you want them to or not. And so it's better, if that is the case, that you're the one that lets it out, so that That way you can control what's being said and how it's being delivered, as opposed to allowing somebody from the outside to come in and just unexpectedly share the information that you've been holding back so deliberately and carefully up until this time. But for the most part, this is actually quite a nice energy for Leo. If you're a Leo rising sun or moon, anywhere around that 15th degree, I would say anywhere from 12 to 18 degrees in the sign of Leo, you're going to be feeling very motivated, very fired up. You're going to be, whatever it is that you want to create, you're going to feel very ambitious and driven toward it. You're going to be able to see the bigger picture, the broader perspective. You're going to be feeling very optimistic about your goals and plans, and you're going to have the energy to start something and follow through with it this week, especially at the start of this week. So I think that's a good energy. If you do have to air a little bit of dirty laundry in order to get there to that place of motivation, then so be it. But the other thing that's going on here is that Venus is in a really nice, or I shouldn't say nice, but it's in a square with Neptune. Venus and Neptune go well together, so it's not like the worst thing in the universe. But there could be a deceptive energy going on within your social circle where your friends are not exactly who you think they are, or you have a friend who's not exactly who you think they are. And so there's been some murkiness, fogginess, confusion around a friendship, or around a group connection, or maybe around a group or organization that you're a part of. And it's going to come back around, and you're going to be questioning things, and it's going to be very hard to determine who this person is or what their agenda really is. You'll start to see things a lot more clearly coming into the end of this week, like after this time has passed. And so don't make any judgments right now or any decisions on that just at the start of this week. Give it a little bit of time, because you will finally get clarity around this person and what's going on with this energy, or around this group or organization that you're a part of. Or it could even be somebody on social media who you met and you think they're one person, and maybe they're like catfishing you or something like that. So just pay attention to what's coming up around that. Although I do think the end results of whatever is revealed to you and whatever clarity comes to you will be more positive than negative, just because of the placement in your chart. The other thing that's going on here is that Jupiter is making a really nice sextile to Neptune in the 8th house. This is a great time to really tap into your psychic abilities, tap into your intuition, tap into something much deeper, and allow that to drive you to change and transform and to expand on something when it comes to your health, your work, and your daily routines that you've been wanting to expand on, that you've been wanting to grow, that you've been wanting to change in a very positive way. This could be a really great time for you to do some sort of hypnotherapy that's aimed toward not just psychological exploration and psychological change, but that results in or is aimed toward physical change as well, or a meditation process that goes a little bit deeper, that involves some sort of visualization, that involves some sort of deep inner work that allows you to transform your physical body and physical health as a result of going through that process. This is a great week for something like that. But in general, anything you want to do to improve your physical and mental health, because those two things are very interrelated, now is a great time to go for it. For Virgo and for Virgo rising, this Mars energy, it's a little tense with your friends and your social networks this week. And so Mercury is in your 11th house of friendships, groups of people that you surround yourself with by choice. And Mars is squaring that. And Mars is in the 8th house. And so there could be power struggles or some sort of challenge that's been going on beneath the surface when it comes to your social networks, when it comes to your circle, when it comes to your friendships. And it might finally reach that boiling point where something comes up and something is said, words are exchanged, and it's not going to feel so good, or it's not going to it's not going to be conducive to actually having really good, level-headed, calm conversations to work things out. If that is the case, and you can sit with it and just kind of like let it go for a little while before you come back to it, that would be ideal. And so what I mean by that is somebody says something, like a friend finally says something, there's been some tension, they finally say something, and you just want to react and you just want to yell at them or whatever it is. If you take a step back and just don't respond and wait until the end of the week where we have this Mercury opposition to Pluto, you'll be much more deliberate and much more strategic with your responses, and you'll know the truth and you'll understand what's going on much better than you do right now. This could just be a little bit of tension. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big thing, but there's been tension brewing for a little while in this area of your life. It could even just be social media. This is a great time to like take a digital detox, to get off of social media because of just the kind of energy around that right now in general, but in your chart specifically, it could be very triggering, and it could cause you to kind of explode or lose friends over things that don't actually really matter to you in the long run. The other thing that's going on here is that Venus is in your 10th house of career and public reputation, and it's making that final square to Neptune. There's something that you've been confused about in terms of a work-related relationship, collaboration, a work-related contract, agreement, negotiation, or just in general, something involving your work or your career or your public reputation, or it could be all of the above. But there's something murky there where you've been kind of trying to figure out what's going on, but you're not seeing things clearly, and most likely you're seeing things more idealistically. And this could especially be involving interpersonal relationships pertaining to your career. And so now's a time where that murkiness is coming back up. You might see what you want to see. You might start realizing that you're only seeing what you want to see. You might have a moment of disillusionment. And especially at the end of the week, you can start to get clarity around what's really going on here. The good energy this week is around romance. So if you are romantically involved, now's a really great time, especially at the start of this week, but really this entire time period. This is a great time to go out to have a romantic date, or to stay in and have a romantic date, but rekindle the romance. Do something dreamy and romantic that feels good, that's fun and exciting with your partner. If you're not in partnership, this would be a great like first date energy even. It's very dreamy and romantic. Or this could be a really great time for you to just do something really fun with somebody who you care about. It doesn't have to be a romantic thing. You could go out with a friend and do something that you love to do, or do something creative indoors if you're not, somebody who's going out right now. You could do something at home with somebody you care about, have a craft night or something like that, or do something that's just exciting to you in some way. This is a great time though for connecting on that level. All right, and then for Libra and for Libra rising, I did a terrible job drawing this week, you guys. Like, it's so uneven. I always have these like badly drawn, Libra will hate this, right? It's so not balanced, very asymmetrical. But anyway, so the Libra is all like big and stumpy. So for Libra and for Libra rising, so for you guys, this is a time where there could potentially be some conflict. There's a lot of frustration that's been going on that might be bubbling up to the surface once and for all around work-related relationships in particular, but in general, relationships could be a little bit tenser this week. You might have more arguments, disputes, especially if you're in some sort of work-related partnership. Words might be exchanged. You might be on the receiving end of that, or you might be the one who's finally saying your piece, and it might not necessarily be well received, especially if you do that at the start of this week. I would highly recommend waiting until the end of the week if you can to respond or react to whatever it is that you're feeling or whatever is being said to you, because your words will be more deliberate, more precise, more truthful, and you'll fully understand what's going on a deeper level by that time. Although I can understand why with this energy you might be more reactionary and you might just jump in and say something. If that's the case, you've been forewarned that it might get a little dicey. So just kind of be aware of that. The other thing that's going on here is that Venus has been in your 9th house, which is the house of travel. There could have been some travel plans that have been really murky for you. I mean, I think that's a pretty straightforward interpretation in the times that we're in. Maybe travel plans with a partner, or, travel plans to go visit somebody who you care about. There's an interpersonal component to this that's showing up here. And, finally it's coming back around. It's murky. What am I going to do? Am I going to go on this trip? Am I going to meet with this person? And you'll finally get some clarity around what's going on here. It could even be like a work-related trip or something like that. This could also be a lack of clarity around your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, or some important concept that's framing your reality right now, where you believed one thing and then all of a sudden the veil is lifted and you have this moment of disillusionment and you realize that things were not exactly as you thought they were. This could also be a disillusionment or a fogginess or murkiness around a teacher, especially if it's a newly acquired teacher over the past few months, where the veil will be lifted and you're going to see this person much more clearly. You might have been seeing them idealistically, and now you realize maybe that they're only human, or that there's something there that you weren't seeing at the beginning. This is a good week for anything involving home, property, family, and especially if it involves your daily habits and routines in the home. Incorporating creativity, meditation, spirituality, or more compassion, especially as you're engaging in your interpersonal relationships with your family, can be a wonderful way to use the energy this week. For Scorpio and for Scorpio rising. So for you guys, this Mars square to Mercury is going to be happening in your 9th and in your 6th house. And so there could be some sort of diciness around some sort of educational pursuit where something is said or words are exchanged in some way with a teacher, or maybe you're the one teaching and you say something really hastily, and I gotta watch out for that. That's me. Or something along those lines, right? Where something is said and you're like, oh, and you have to kind of put your foot in your mouth. Especially if you are somebody who's teaching or writing or sharing information on a public platform, I would say just, be careful with your words, slow things down. Don't feel like you have to react or say something immediately. Take your time and think things through before you respond. The other thing too, though, is that with your work and your daily routines, things could feel extra busy and super, super tense this week. It's something that's been kind of under the surface and going on for, a few weeks now, but it's finally going to be bubbling up, coming to that culmination point and this point of release where something has to give, something has to be said, you have to take action on something. If that is the case, don't just take the action impulsively, especially when it comes to changing your work habits or routines, because you're not seeing the full picture just yet. And so you're going to want to take your time, maybe wait till the end of the week where there's better energy and you can be more decisive and more clear before you say what you need to say, or take the action that you need to take with your coworkers or in general with your work. The other thing that's going on is that Venus is squaring Neptune for the final time. There's been some murkiness around some sort of financial endeavor, some sort of financial pursuit. It could be an investment, some sort of loan that you've taken out, an insurance payout, taxes. It could be your partner's resources. Something has been unclear where maybe you weren't seeing things quite so accurately. You could have been seeing what you want to see when it comes to joint finances and what your partner's bringing in. You could have been seeing what you want to see when it comes to debt or something involving other people's money. And this week it becomes kind of clear there's some confusion, but then you have this moment of disillusionment where the veil drops and you realize that things are not exactly what you thought they were. So you'll have a moment of clarity and you'll begin to understand what's really going on, and then you can take the necessary steps from there. This is actually a good week for just fun and romance and play and communication, especially communication around spirituality, creativity, enhancing your experience of joy within your community, maybe spending time with your neighbors, spending time in your community. A lot of really good things. If you have any issues, especially with all this energy in the 3rd house around vehicles, around short distance travel, around your neighbors, around your community that have been coming up and that have been kind of weighing on you this year, this is a time where you might get an intuitive hit and you might understand where this is going, and you might be able to actually create something positive in that area. All right, for Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising, this Mars energy square to Mercury is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of debt, other people's money, and joint finances. There could be some sort of conflict or some sort of disagreement around money or joint finances. There could be a bill that comes out of nowhere that is like, where did that come from? And you have to react to it really quickly, and you might not fully understand the full picture, or you might yell at someone on the phone like a debt collector or something like that. if that is the case, just calm down, be kind, you'll figure it out. Later this week, it'll make much more sense what's going on here. There could just be something that you need to take immediate action on that's been lingering, involving a joint financial venture, a joint investment, or investments in general. Again, taxes, inheritance, insurance payouts, that type of thing. But there could be some tension around this issue. So just be aware of that and just know that you don't have to take action or react at the start of this week immediately. You can take your time, and by the end of this week, things will be a little bit more clear in this area for you, in the area of finances. And in general, you do have some good energy around finances. I mean, Neptune is actually making a really nice sextile to Jupiter. So if there's money that you need, first off, it could come from like the home, or maybe like a home equity loan, or from family members or something like that. It could just flow in, or maybe you need money for your family, or you need money for some sort of project in the home. If you visualize what you want and focus on it, if you like put yourself in a state of meditation and sort of enhance that energy and do some metaphysical work around your money, this is a time where it can manifest. And so this is actually potentially some good news around finances, especially finances in the home or finances tied to your family. The one area where there could be some murkiness, there's been maybe some confusion or some murkiness or maybe idealization when it comes to your partnerships, especially romantic partnerships, but really any close personal relationships or family relationships even, because this is in your fourth house, or a relationship maybe with like a roommate or something like that, where you're seeing what you want to see and you're not seeing what's there. And so this is a time where the veil drops and you realize who this person really is, especially if this is somebody who came into your life the past couple of months around the Venus retrograde, or if there's an issue interpersonally with a family member that started to come up during the Venus retrograde, or you started to see them in a different light. Maybe your opinion of a family member changed and it was one way, and then during that time it's like, oh, this is like a saint-like person and they're so great and they're doing these wonderful things. That veil might drop and you might realize, yeah, they're not really living up to the hype. They're not who they say they are. They're not who I thought they were. Maybe it's not their fault. Maybe you were the one who was projecting onto them, but it'll become clear, especially after the start of this week. All right, and for Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this energy with the Mars square to Mercury is happening in your fourth and in your seventh house. So this could be fights and arguments with people in the home, with family members, with romantic partners. This could be arguments and disputes around or tensions around contracts, negotiations, or agreements related to your home or your place of living. This could be a lot of really tense energy around just wanting to change something involving your home. I actually just got a message from somebody who has this placement who was saying that. And I didn't even think about the Mercury part that was going on here. But there's like a lot, it's like this busy, really excitable, really frustrated energy where it's like, I need to do something, I need to say something, I need to change something, I need to break that contract, I need to get out of my lease, and I need to just go. Slow it down. Don't just take crazy action at the start of this week because that frustration's been building for a few weeks now. Maybe take your time. Let things kind of sink in, let things play out. And by the end of the week, you'll be a lot more deliberate and intentional and strategic with your actions and what you say if you do decide to get out of that contract, or if you do decide to confront that person that you need to confront. You'll be able to do so strategically and with a deeper, more truthful understanding of what's really going on. So that's my recommendation for that. It could just be that there's some like tension in your marriage, and words are exchanged. I keep saying that, but I feel like a lot of words are going to be exchanged at the start of this week. I don't really know how else to say it. Words will be exchanged. And maybe there's some disagreement, but it's something that needs to be aired. It needs to be let out. It needs to be talked about. If there has been a lot of frustration boiling to the surface for several weeks now, it's going to come out and there's going to be conflict. But I think that you can come to a mutual resolution and understand the truth of what's going on, especially at the end of this week. The energy for you guys actually is a little bit nicer. So there could be some sort of murkiness or confusion or disillusionment around your work, your health habits, your daily routines, your coworkers, where you thought something was one way, or you thought a person, especially like interpersonal relationships or finances around work, you thought things were one way, you were seeing something more idealistically, and then a communication comes in and it's revealed that maybe things are not exactly what they seem to be. This is a good energy though for Capricorns, for communication in general. Not maybe, there could be just like, you could, have an argument with your wife or your husband or, your significant other or whatever. But, I do think that there's the potential here to approach things really compassionately, really lovingly, to really put yourself in their shoes. And so because of the energy and the way that it's showing up in your chart, you can actually resolve things a lot more easily than some of the other signs, especially if you are keeping an open heart and an open mind and, expressing compassion and feeling, trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I do think that you could have some sort of benefit that comes to you this week through communication or through some sort of creative project or creative writing or creative marketing. And so that's another potential here. But whatever it is that you've been wanting to create for yourself on a personal level, you can really visualize it, take hold of it, and manifest it as a result of the energies this week. All right, and then for Aquarius and for Aquarius rising, Mars is squaring Mercury. So Mars is actually in your second house, and this is squaring Mercury in the fifth. And so what I would say about this in particular, there could be arguments, or you could have some issues with your children or with childcare that come up this week. Or is this Aquarius? Sorry, this is incorrect. Scratch that. Aquarius and Aquarius rising. I told you this was not drawn well. Sometimes when I do that, I get confused about the houses because they're all unequal. So for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, not finances. Finances are good for you this week. If you want to manifest something financially, this is the week to draw it out, make that vision board, do that meditation, do that visualization. Money can flow in for you from hidden sources. So hidden sources of wealth could come up for you this week, or hidden sources of financing or money, especially if you're focusing on it and drawing it in and visualizing that. That's a really great energy and a really great thing to keep in mind this week. So the money you need can come in and likely will come in this week. But there is an energy here where there could be conflict or disagreements in the workplace in particular, where there could be arguments, disputes, fights that break out involving your coworkers, or, there could be some sort of tension or issue around your work, or you could just be very, very busy. This feels like it's been a few weeks right now for Aquarius, where it's been like constant text message, phone calls, emails, communication, constant work, busy. It's kind of like you're frazzled and there's too much going on all over the place. If that's the case, it might come to a boiling point. You might feel like you can't take it anymore, but later this week it'll start to calm down and you'll start to be able to approach things more intentionally and more strategically from here on out. The other thing too is that there could be a romance in your life that you might have some sort of disillusionment around, where you thought this person was one way and it turns out that they're not that way. And so that could be part of this energy too, but it's not necessarily the worst thing. It's kind of just like, oh, I thought that they were this person, but I realize now that they're a little bit different than that. And why did I think that, right? As long as they weren't intentionally deceiving you, then it could just be that you made some assumptions and those assumptions are being broken. So that could be part of this too. But this is mostly, for Aquarius, a good energy. That Venus is in a nice aspect with your ascendant and descendant. And so I think it's kind of like just a clearing up of something murky, maybe in a relationship or in like a romantic, especially partnership. If you're not romantically connected, this could be something murky or confusing involving children or finances around children that gets cleared up for you this week. For Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for you guys, this Mars square to Mercury is happening in your second and in your fifth house. There's like an energy where you really want to get out there and play and do something fun, but there's something that demands your attention financially, or there's a financial tension, frustration, or strain that you've been dealing with. It could be that you feel like you've reached your breaking point and you just want to buy the thing, and you just need to put that money down and you need to pay for it. Be careful, especially if you're acting really impulsively and you're acting out of frustration. You want to make sure that this is really a good, sound financial decision. By the end of this week, it'll become abundantly clear whether or not it is, and you'll be able to approach your finances and your spending more strategically, more deliberately, and from a place of truth and deep understanding of what's really going on and what the end results will be. Making any, sort of impulsive financial moves at the start of this week is just not necessarily a good idea. This could also be you just feeling frustrated with your children. It's kind of like they're running wild and they're going crazy, and you're at your wit's end, and you want to just lock yourself away or something like that. If that's the case, if you're busy with your kids, if your kids are all over the place, if it feels like they're having like just too much energy, that's completely okay. It's probably been like that for a few weeks. That'll pass. And so I wouldn't be super worried about that. It could just be an energy too that you feel frustrated and you want to play. And you just can't because you're working, and you have all these financial burdens. That'll start to lift, and you'll start to be able to do something with that energy later, especially into next weekend. The energy with Venus. So there's an energy around an interpersonal relationship related to your family. So it could be a parent or a close family member or somebody who you live with, where you were seeing them in one light and you start to realize that that's kind of murky and it's not exactly the truth. And so, something could be revealed to you. Or it could be that they were seeing you in a certain light and they're like, wow, that was not correct. Or they were projecting energy onto you that wasn't necessarily warranted, for better or for worse. And so there could be a disillusionment coming from them as well, where they realize that, it could even be like a parent realizing like, this isn't my little boy or my little girl anymore. Like, you're grown up and I need to kind of just, let you do your thing. That could be a part of that energy too. This could also be disillusionment around a financial situation in the home, or something creative or something that you did to beautify the home, or you had this very grand vision in your head and it was very idealized, and now that it's coming to fruition, you're like, this is not what I thought it was. It's okay, but it's not like the be all end all of my existence. The other thing that's going on though, great week for friendships, great week for socializing. People are going to be viewing you much more compassionately, much more lovingly. You're going to be viewing them much more compassionately, much more lovingly. This is a great time for like a group meditation or a group endeavor that involves something creative or mystical in some way. But in general, just all group relationships, all friendships this week have a boost of positive energy. There's been a lot of change, a lot of turbulence, a lot of transition in that area. This is the week where something positive can come in friendships or in a group interaction. Even if that interaction is online or whatever it is, it can still be a very positive one. Or joining a group or starting an organization of your own. This could be a good time for that as well. All right, and so that is my forecast for all 12 signs. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like this video, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends if you feel like they might be interested or benefit from this information. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.